Hello, I'm Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Marc Elrich, the new County Executive-elect for Montgomery County, appears ready to go as he will be taking the office in December. He'll be joined by 4 new county council members and 5 returning county council members who will be our executive and legislative branches of Montgomery County. Brian Karem, the executive editor of the Sentinel newspapers, is here to report on changes that he believes are coming. The youth vote in most elections has been lower than that of senior citizens or senior voters. I don't know who they're talking about. In the 2018 elections, young voters did turn out. Mariana Cordier, a local attorney who comments for our program on a regular basis, is here to explain what happened. The committee for Montgomery's annual legislative breakfast, one of the highlights of the year, is the unofficial start of the Maryland legislative season. This year's event will have many new legislators in attendance and will introduce the committee's legislative agenda for the 2019 session that is designed to make sure that Montgomery County's voice is heard in Annapolis. Marilyn Balcombe, past president of the Committee for Montgomery, will explain the agenda and what she expects to happen in Annapolis. The November 2018 elections are behind us. Many say, thank goodness. And now, the evaluation of how voting went in Montgomery County is underway. Gilberto Zelaya, Dr. Gilberto Zelaya, from the Montgomery County Board of Elections is here to tell us what happened and some preliminary thoughts in advance of the final analyses. How are you, Brian?
Good to see you.
Fresh from the White House.
Literally fresh. I just got up here from the White House this morning.
How's our good friend Ms. Sanders doing? Are you guys still getting along so well?
Well, she loves me. She invited me over to her house for sweet potato pie, but we'll see.
Well, we appreciate your coming from the White House and coming with Sentinel, great paper, and everything else.
You.
We've got now we're looking at Montgomery County.
Yes.
We've got a new county executive. We've got 4 new county council members. 5 returnees. What do we expect?
Freshest faces we've seen in the council and on the from the Montgomery County Executive Office in quite a while. And guess what? You have one person above all else to thank for it: Robin Ficker.
Robin, because of term limits.
Because of term limits. Because
right.
of term limits that blew out the 4 people that left. Roger Berliner is gone. Elrich is gone. He's now the county executive.
Right.
Nancy Florine is gone.
All these people
All these people are gone.
But
and
we're not
now
talking
we
about
have
the past. Now we're talking about
now
the future.
we have the youngest, probably most progressive group that we've had elected, also overwhelmingly male. And their big issues as they come in.
But racially and ethnically diverse, more diverse than
anyone.
except for the gender diversity.
Except for the gender diversity,
Right.
You're correct. And what they have as on their agenda, the first thing that they're talking about tackling is the mountain of regulations for small businesses and hoping to decimate some of those regulations to make business better for Montgomery County. One of the things that they're not taking up, though, one of the things that the big issues that they want to take, that people want to see, especially small business owners, is the amount of taxes that are being levied on business owners. That's not going to change because, as we all know, once the government gets a hold of a tax stream, they're not going to let it go. But otherwise, they are trying to deal with some regulations.
Well, there's a lot of complaints from the businesses that want to do business
Yes,
in
there
Montgomery
are.
County about the bureaucracy for licensing and all of that. So if they can tackle that, that would be fantastic. But I think that's going to be something that has to be done not just at the county council, but at the executive.
I think Elrich is taking. Look. One of the things that you're going to have to look at in this election, because it was a key election in Montgomery County, is Elrich. Look, he used public funding to become the county executive. He was outspent by both of his opponents. He was. They painted him in the corner as being, not progressive, but a socialist, and still he won in Montgomery County.
But he did start earlier than anybody else.
But he has always drawn more votes than anyone else.
Yeah.
This is a grassroots campaign and a grassroots politician.
Let me ask you this: and want to open up for others to ask questions, but is there some validity to the concern that the business community has, or really the developers community has about Marc? Marc has talked about whether a balance approach, that communities need to be involved as well in development decisions.
I think
is it
the concern? There's a kernel of truth to the concern, but Marc Elrich has addressed those issues and saying, look, I'm for fair and balanced development, not just unchecked growth. Right. And what he has done as on the council proves that to be true. And he has also not hesitated to come down on those who say, look, you don't know what you're doing. And he says, look, I know this, I know that, I've been there.
Right.
The issue with developers is they wanted someone in their pocket, and then they didn't get that. They wanted someone who would push their agenda,
right,
and they did not get that.
I think also what's a good testament is he's had these listening sessions across the county.
He's had 3 so far.
Yeah, and I think those are kind of positive because it brings not only the individuals that support him on election day, but also the rest of the county residents, which is over 1 million. So it gives an opportunity to share.
And that's one of the questions we've heard at the Sentinel Group. How do we know that Marc Elrich is going to do what he says he's going to do? And we've encouraged people who have doubted him to go out to these listening sessions and listen to the guy. He's going to be your county executive.
Right.
Go listen to what he has
questions.
to say and ask questions.
And also, I mean, if there's talented people out there, I think his, not just the top level cabinet, but the other employees and the diversity that he could infuse into the county government is a possibility with him because of what he's preached and has said.
Right.
So
But
we cross our fingers and hope that that's what comes.
He
to
also
place.
has a very large transition team,
Right.
and so in addition to the listening sessions, he has 180 people on this transition team.
And what that brings to mind, and what the question I've also had asked is, what is he going to bring?
We've got
that's
40
different?
seconds, 30 seconds.
The biggest thing you're going to see, he's bringing new blood into the county government, including people that have not been in government before and have now a voice through this government. I think you're going to see a lot of change in the county executive branch and in the county council over the next year.
Well, let's not forget that the professionals we have in county government are some of the best in the county and the country. I mean, we have the federal, somebody came from the federal government.
No, but I think what they were saying is that the population of the county government is a lot older, and some of them are retiring.
No. Amen. So
fresh blood is a good thing in the county government.
So don't. The bottom line is don't panic. It's probably going to be.
I think it's actually going to be good for the county.
Okay. Now, helping to make that good, helping to make these changes, were these new young voters who came in. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be back.
So new voters or
Young
voters?
Well, not so much new voters, but young voters, because the age range when we talk about the youth vote is the 18 to 29.
Okay.
So there are some folks that have been able to vote and in that age group and have not. So this midterm elections resulted in having the most young voter turnout than in the last 25 years.
A lot of people have been looking at Texas and Florida, parts of the South, Atlanta, where especially immigrants, children,
the Latino
and going
vote was
up
big
and
too.
voters.
Yeah.
And did that happen here in Montgomery County? Do we finally see a sea change where folks are coming to age and then coming to vote?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of folks in Montgomery County that were born in the county from the diverse
first generation.
So Latinos, the Latino vote, not just in Montgomery County but across the country, came out big, which was super important because the Latino vote has been disregarded because they don't show up in the past.
So that begs the question, and maybe it's an obvious answer. What drove them to vote this time?
I think that there was a lot of community-based organizations that did a lot of work. Even Hollywood got out there and saying, "Look, you need your vote to count," and I think that did have an impact.
But what was the stimulus?
But I hate to say that Trump had a stimulus in this, but he did. I mean,
so
people
when
are
Trump
reacting.
Says he is a positive influence for change, you're backing that up.
Well, and it's possible, but I think what Trump has done is open the need for discussion about what is important to you. And I think that the shooting in Florida and how that galvanized those young students and how they reacted and the way they know how to work. Now, I don't. They know how to work social media, had an impact because it was that shooting, then it was Vegas, and there was a whole bunch of others that you have for the first time, the NRA scared. And that's not something we've seen in ever. You know?
So how did that galvanize them
Wait,
here,
wait.
though? I'm sorry.
But we also saw young people on national television
Yes.
making a case, and people were listening. And I think that that really did wake up youth to say, maybe I have something to say.
And I think another point also, with the Board of Elections, we collaborate with a lot of organizations, and we visit all the high schools in Montgomery County on 2 different occasions within the academic year. And we did a lot of election judge recruitment of those young individuals, especially in 2016, because we're still crunching the numbers for 18. We had 1,100 17-year-olds serve as election judges. So this time around,
1,100 17-year-olds?
yeah, serve as election judges. So if you went to your precinct on election day, you saw a lot of young students
So,
volunteering.
You could serve as an election judge?
As long as you're
What-
registered to vote. If you're registered
well,
to
you have
vote.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so if they're pre-registered,
All
they
right,
could
yeah,
vote
gotcha.
at 18, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, we did mobilize the youth within each high school, and then we saw them turn out, and those also serve.
So what issue, though, in Montgomery County, I get it nationwide that Trump was, and what has gone on nationally has driven people to vote more. But what was it locally that drove people to vote more?
Well, Montgomery County is changing, so it's becoming, it's getting more urban centered. And I think that the Montgomery County young adult wants a more urban experience in Montgomery County. So when you talk about mass transit, and he's talking about the rapid bus and all these other ideas with the Purple Line and all that, that those are issues that to them, to get around, to be living a city life in a suburban county is a big deal for the youth. It's what the county is working for, to pull them and keep them in our county, because we were losing them all. And at the same time, they have their needs and requirements, and that's why you see these developments that are super important, like IPIC area, Pike and Rose, I'm sorry.
Right.
And then you have others in Silver Spring, when they did the development in Silver Spring, and others. So I think that what the youth is beginning to realize is that they can have an impact, and that they should, because if they don't save it, we old people are going to.
Let me ask you
Hey,
this.
I'm not old. I'm still 19.
I am old. So let me
No,
ask
you're
you
not.
this.
Stop it.
Thank you so much. So where's it go from here? Because we got about a minute left.
So we have to keep the momentum. We have to keep them involved. We have to keep them engaged and wanting to vote, and hopefully maybe even get them into public office, because
Well,
we need
maybe
to
that's
think
why
about
you
our
have the
future.
young county council.
Well,
One
exactly.
of the youngest,
Yeah.
most diverse county
Yeah.
councils elected.
Yeah.
I think you're pointing to one of the reasons why.
Yeah,
And you're talking
absolutely.
about Marc Elrich also trying to have more new blood coming in.
I hope so. Yes.
And then, so are you hopeful at this point as we look ahead?
I am hopeful. I'm a hopeful person in general, but I just think that we can't just give up. We have to keep fighting for what we believe in, and to have the youth vote engaged, the Latino vote engaged. This is something we can build on and not lose that momentum.
That's the final word in this segment. Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll be
you.
right back after these messages. And we're back. Marilyn Balcombe, welcome back.
Thank you.
Former president of Committee for Montgomery, leader among leaders in our wonderful county. So, Committee for Montgomery, the legislative breakfast, the unofficial kickoff of the legislative year. It's a place where everyone goes to be seen and to see. It is a great breakfast.
It's a great breakfast, and we, as we're saying, if you want to be in the room where it happens, this is the room where it happens on December 13th. It's going to be a great event.
And practice, if you've got one of those things to strengthen your grip, you want to do that between now and that day, because there are just so much gripping and grinning going on.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
exactly right. But what's great about it is the unofficial launch of the legislative session, and we've got a relatively new delegation going forward. We've got a lot of new people going to Annapolis, and the focus for Committee for Montgomery is the impact of legislation in Annapolis and how that affects Montgomery County. That is our focus.
You know, and that's so important, I think, and open for questions. And I know we want to talk about education, the Kerwin Commission, and everything else, but one of the, I think, pet peeves that has happened brought up over the last 40 years has been when we elect delegates and senators from Montgomery County, the 32 currently from the 8 legislative districts, and they go to Annapolis. Many of them get so subsumed into wanting to run for student council, for leadership positions, that it seems like folks to many people in Montgomery County, that they begin taking sort of a Montgomery County last attitude. Let's look at everything else except for what our county's needs are. And it seems like the Committee for Montgomery is one of those counterweights to ensure that, hey guys, you're elected.
Right.
It's not Montgomery County at the expense of everything else, but it's Montgomery County is who brought you there. Let's make sure you're making decisions for the state with that focus in mind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've got the largest delegation. We should have the strongest delegation. And it's good for...
Why don't we?
Well, it's good for citizen groups to make that
Let's
to
have that
make that
discussion one
case,
day.
to hold them accountable,
Right.
to
Right.
say, you represent us, you represent Montgomery County, and we know that we give more to the state than we get back. We know that, we accept that.
We are the subsidizer of the entire state of
the
Maryland.
economic engine.
Well, Baltimore might disagree with you on that, but
Not even close. Not even close.
Not close at all.
Not even
And
close.
so-
but they will still disagree with you.
But
on
they're
it.
the great
in
sucking-
Baltimore County
the
and Howard
sucking
County.
sound.
I mean,
Right.
we do participate in it, but what's the trade-off? I mean, we do accept that we have to subsidize the state, but at what point, and is there a litmus test, or is there anything
Good
that you say, hey, listen, at what point do you
Right.
draw the line and say, look, you got to take care of us?
Well, and that's what Committee for Montgomery is trying to do. And one of the battles that we're going to see over the next 2 years is this Kerwin Commission.
Tell us about what that is.
So the state is looking at a new funding formula. Right now, education is funded through the Thornton Commission.
Now, we've got about 2 minutes, so they're going to get through it.
It's about a 2-hour
I know.
discussion. But so they're going to change this funding formula. Montgomery County is at risk for losing significant dollars in this discussion. And we have to make sure that regardless of what
Allocated
metrics,
to
education.
education? Okay.
So
Education.
the risk that
So
I
we're-
think
we're-
we're going to run is that they're going to say that because we're such a rich county, because I've gone to the
Yeah,
state events,
that's exactly
and you
right.
hear it, and almost you feel like you have to apologize for living in Montgomery County. But we have poverty. We have kids who need
Right.
meals.
That's
We have a
exactly-
lot of things
Right,
that
that's
the
exactly-
rest of the state says, no, you don't.
Right.
That's exactly right. And so what we're doing is making sure that whatever that formula is, that our needs are recognized, because we have significant poverty in Montgomery County. We have significant wealth. That confuses the issue, but we have strong needs that we need to make sure.
So the fear
So come
is-
to the breakfast.
Okay, but let me just,
Yes.
because
Got a
I'm
minute
going to
left.
put a reporter on this.
Okay.
So you're telling me that the real fear from legislators is that we're going to end up losing
Yes,
education
absolutely.
dollars to rural counties and won't be able to properly educate
Rural
our
and
students.
super urban counties.
And super
Right.
urban.
And I don't
Yes.
think it takes into consideration what funds the other counties are getting that are mismanaged or not properly done. That's an issue that is not being
but
addressed.
the
Well,
issue
they can
that
make that
impacts-
issue about because we mismanage funds educationally.
But
That's
the
a
issue
different
that
issue.
the issue for Montgomery County is that if we lose
30
state
seconds left.
funds, what is Montgomery County going to do, and how
offset.
will Montgomery
Right.
County taxpayers be impacted
And we're
by
going to be
that?
taxing even more.
Right, exactly.
Any other issues besides Kerwin?
We always look, we
10
always
seconds.
monitor all legislation to see how it impacts Montgomery County, and we jump on it. So.
Marilyn, thank you so much.
Sure.
That's so much in such a short segment, and you did a great job.
The breakfast, don't forget the breakfast.
Come to the breakfast. See and
We
be
have
seen.
French toast.
Dr. Zelaya,
Sir.
Gilberto, Dr. Z, to so many of these young children, I shouldn't say children, but these young adults who come flock to work for you at election time.
Yes, we run that Future Vote program. We've been successful and worked with over 40,000 youths and 29,000 families. And these students serve as election day aides, and then as they come of age, we expect them that they serve as election judges. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen this
Yeah.
push of the youth vote in Montgomery County, because we've been active since 2004.
Let me put this question to you to get us kicked off. We saw in Georgia and Florida the individuals who are in charge of running the elections were the individuals who are running for office at the same time. The Secretary of State and the governor in those two states. And so thinking about free and fair elections, if we were National Democratic Institute or International Republican Institute or one of the other organizations running around the world, judging other countries' elections, we would not call those free and fair elections.
No, of course.
No. Montgomery County, what we did here, free and fair?
Yes, I think so. I mean, from the leadership from the top down and the bottom up, I think our intention as election administrators is to have a transparent, fair, and accessible election. We're charged with that, and we take our profession seriously. It's not something you grow up saying, when I grow up, I'm going to be an election administrator. And I mean, you want to be a police officer, a doctor, a reporter. You don't say an election administrator, a football player.
Well, you're
exactly.
Dr. Z.
Hey, but it was my second career. I came from public health, actually.
Right.
So, but looking at
this
the
is public health, brother.
well, yeah. So looking at the mobilization of our voters and looking at the franchise, we are lucky. We have a robust franchise. We have early voting, 8 consecutive days, 10 hours. That's 80 hours. We have
Huge numbers who came out.
huge numbers. I think it's outstanding. We have election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have 45 days in, you could vote by mail and request your ballot to be mailed to you. There's a specific link that you work with the State Board of Elections. We have our absentee ballot in-house with 30 days within the election.
What you're describing is an attitude that we want everyone who can vote and should vote to have access to vote,
yes.
bar none.
Yes, and I think it's important. Yes.
But the question I have is, all right, we have great early voting. We have turnout on the day of election. You get the provisional ballots, you get them in the mail. But still, even they call this a great turnout.
40% didn't come out.
Yeah. How many didn't show up to vote?
Yeah, no, we always look at that. And so,
And how many was it? Close to 50%?
it's about 48, 46%.
All right. So what are we going to do in the future to ensure that other 48%?
So I'll get to that. So what we do now is we crunch the numbers. So I coordinate outreach and empowerment for the county. So between elections, between the last midterm and this current midterm, we did over 1,800 outreach events. We go throughout the communities. Even as a community for Montgomery board member, we even invite all the leaders to do outreach, registration, education. We do voter registrar trainings. We go throughout every single corner of Montgomery County, and we turn over every rock to ensure that voters understand the franchise. It may be, we're biased, so we understand the franchise, but we have a lot of newly naturalized citizens. We have a lot of young voters that don't understand the
They
process.
don't necessarily speak the language
Exactly.
either.
So
Right.
we
That's
do.
not the big. We have apathetic voters
I think
that
that's-
don't vote.
Yeah.
That is the issue. It's like people who don't vote, and I don't understand that. People who don't vote don't think that their vote matters.
What does it matter?
But in this election, we've seen, the
Marc
primary,
Elrich
Marc
won by
Elrich,
77 votes.
77 votes,
Seven,
right?
right.
And
2 minutes left.
a delegate race flipped in the recount,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So every vote does count, and I think that we just got to get that out there. And I hope that you focus on the up county.
Yes.
Because we need the up county to vote, which
No,
they
exactly.
don't.
I think in the day we try to do as much as possible. I mean, the council has been very supportive, giving us outreach budget monies. And we try to go to every nook and cranny in the county. And we understand there's a lot of communities. Our voter registration application, absentee, and early voting information, we have them in Braille, in English, and in Spanish. We're going to kind of create some apps looking for 2020, which will push notifications to voters about.
Do you have people saying to you, "What does my vote matter?" Like she said.
Yeah. I mean, you do, and
Do
you're
you ever
surprised.
do you ever flip the script and say, "I guarantee if you don't vote, it will count"?
Yeah, we do, and we tell them, look what's going on nationally, what's going on locally. Your vote is essential for the whole process called democracy. And democracy in action is that singular vote, and when you add it up, it does make a difference.
About a minute.
So at the end of the day, what we ask our voters, number one, is make sure your records are up to date to avoid voting provisional. We're big on provisional prevention, and that's kind of my background and in my studies. But at the end of the day, coordinate what you're going to do on election day or early voting. I see more people putting effort, their weekends leading after Black Friday towards the holidays than what they do on election day.
Right.
And I think that script
As I
needs
said
to be
before, no
flipped.
kidding.
Yeah, so yeah. But at the end of the
Yeah,
day, you have
it's
to
funny,
take
I have
self-ownership.
heard people say, "Oh no, it's election day, school's closed. I'm going to have to find a babysitter," and you're like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's something that
The
is very
least you
important."
could do
Yeah.
is vote. That's
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah.
It's the one thing we're asked to do.
And we emphasize a lot the sacrifices that came before us
Right.
to have the opportunity to flex your constitutional
We've
right.
got about 10 seconds. Hopeful, exciting.
Hopeful,
What's-
excited, make sure your records are updated, and we're moving towards 2020.
Great.
Great last word. Guys, it's been a great show. I want to thank you for joining me today. And I want to thank everyone in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores. I'm inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.
For French toast.